Good morning and welcome to Distance Learning. We're going to do 10-6, which is segment relations. We did half of 10-6 last Friday, and what we did in there is if we had a circle and we had two chords in the circle, we are dealing with the lengths of these chords. And what we found out is if we took part times part, so A times C equals the other part. So when we take B times D, okay, so part times part and part times part, these are going to end up being equal. They cut each other so it's proportionally so that when we multiply them together, they are equal. So we did this with the chords on the inside. Today, what we're doing with the segment relations is if we have a secant that comes through, we can't use a part times whole. It's not going to be the same exact thing. So this time, if I put an A, a B, and a C, and a D in here, what happens is we have an outside part. So when we take A, the outside part, and again, we're going to multiply it by something, and we're going to multiply it by the whole thing. The outside times the whole times, so this would be A plus B. That is going to be equal if we do the same thing on the other side. So if we take the outside part, the outside, to the whole thing. Okay, so we have the outside C times the whole thing, C plus D. Outside times whole is equal to the same outside times whole of the other one. Now, we're also going to have times where you have a secant and a tangent. So if you have this be a tangent, you don't have an outside and a whole. So what we do for that is you take your tangent and you square it. So tangent squared is going to equal to the part times the whole. Okay, so whether you have two secants or a tangent and a secant, it's going to be the outside times the whole. All right, so here's how they have it written out here, and they do whole times outside and whole times outside. So the same thing I just went over. And then in here, when we have a secant and a tangent, it's z squared equals the outside part times the whole thing. All right, let's go through some sample problems here. So it looks like we have a tangent and a tangent. So I'm going to do part times whole to do these. Okay, so let's look at this one first. The part, outside part, is the 4. And then the whole thing. Now, most of you are not going to write 4 plus 5. You're just going to do 4 times 9. Heck of you are just going to write 36. Okay, part times whole. And that's going to have to equal the same thing on the other side when we do that part times the whole. Okay, so we're going to do part times whole. Part x minus 2 times the whole thing. So when we do this whole thing, we have to say x minus 2 plus x plus 4. All right, so I'm going to clean up inside that second parentheses here first and do x plus x is 2x, and then negative 2 plus 4 is a positive 2. Now I'm going to do FOIL. First, outside, inside, last. We have a binomial times a binomial here. So x times 2x is 2x squared, and x times 2 is plus 2x. Now we're going to take negative 2, so we have negative 4x, and a negative 2 times 2 is minus 4. Okay, I'm going to clean up these like terms right here. And at the same time, I am going to subtract this 36. So I end up with 0 equals 2 x squared, and 2x minus 4x is a negative 2x, and then I have a negative 40. Well, I realize that all of these are divisible by 2, so I'm going to divide everything by 2 to get this smaller. So I have 0 equals x squared minus x minus 20. Now, you can go ahead and solve this by factoring, completing the square, or using the quadratic formula. I am just going to try to see if this thing is going to factor first. So I get x times x. What multiplies together to give you 20 is going to be a 5 and a 4, and my signs have to be different. And I want a negative 1, so I'm going to have a negative 5 plus 4. And now when I find these 0 factors, x is equal to 5 or a negative 4. And let's see, can we have a negative 4? No, because if we put a negative 4 in here, negative 4 minus 2 would make that length be negative 6. So negative 4 is not an answer that's going to work. We would only use the 5 in this circumstance. All right, another, what is the radius of the aquarium tank? So we've got a round aquarium, and we know that the tangent to that is 20, and then we've got an 8 feet on the outside. Okay, there's a couple different ways my brain's kind of looking at this or thinking of doing this. So one way is we know we're going to have to take this tangent and square it. So I know for sure I'm going to have 20 squared. Okay, how I do the other side is going to be completely up to you. You can certainly call that R and R, so maybe I'll do that way first. So we're going to do the part, the outside, and then the whole thing. So whole thing would be 8 plus R plus R. So it looks like I have, and I'm just going to simplify inside here. So I have 8 plus 2R. Okay, now I'm going to distribute. So I have 20 equals 8 times 8 is 64 plus 8 times 2 is 16R. So now, oh, no, not 20, 20 squared. So now I'm going to have 400, and I'm going to subtract that 64 from that. So 64, or 400 minus 64, and then I'm going to divide that by 16, and I think I end up with R to be 21. So you're going to subtract your 64, and then you're going to divide by 16, and I believe R is 21, and they wanted the radius, so we're good. 21 feet. The way I did it initially at first is I just called all of this right here my diameter. So I set it up as 20 squared equals 8 times the whole thing, which would be, actually I called this whole thing W. And then I found out what W was, and then I subtracted the 8 and then divided by 2. So I think I did 400 equals 8W. So my W is 50. I subtracted that 8 and got the diameter to be 42. So the diameter is 42. And then I divided by 2 to find the radius. And either way, you're still going to get 21. So whichever way mathematically works for you. The big thing is that you're setting it up correct so that you're doing part times the whole thing. That's the big part. All right, that's the end. So just making sure that you are doing the part times the whole. So today your assignment is online, and it is 10-6, and then there should be a day 2 part of that. So tomorrow, which would be Tuesday, we are going to do 10-7. Wednesday is review. Thursday is your test on chapter 7 or chapter 10, and then Friday we have no school. They are going to do distance learning planning since the governor canceled school for the rest of the year. Okay, so that's the schedule. So remember, part times whole If you have a secant and if you have the tangent, that's when you're going to do that outside part squared. Alrighty, good luck.